Oh Canada, directed by Paul Schrader, got a very lukewarm and mixed reception when it debuted at the Cannes Film Festival. Is it actually underrated, or is it a film you should skip? Let's find out. Richard Gere plays Leonard Fife, a documentary Canadian filmmaker who is regarded as one of the best and most underappreciated filmmakers in Canada. He, he has cancer and he is dying, and he leaves hospital to go to his home to be looked after by his wife, played by Uma Thurman, and a full-time team of nurses. A younger filmmaker, played by Marco Imperioli, wants to do a feature documentary on Leonard Fife. We find out later in the film that this filmmaker and his wife were former students of Leonard's when he taught a film class. Over a couple of days, Leonard sits in front of a camera and is asked a series of questions about his life back in the late 1960s when he was in his early 20s. The film is mostly told in flashbacks, and in those flashbacks, the early Leonard is played by the actor Jacob Elordi. The flashbacks mostly deal with his dodging of the Vietnam War and escaping to Canada, his romantic relationships, and how he became a documentary filmmaker. Leonard proves to be an unreliable interview subject. He is confused about what parts of his life were actually happened or not. He is either completely fabricating events and romantic relationships, or they actually happened, and this is the first time he's ever talked about them. His wife is beside him the whole time during the interview process, and she doesn't want to believe that any of the information that he's given out is actually true. She blames his cancer illness and his foggy memory for him allegedly fabricating this information about his past life. Leonard wants this interview to be a sort of confession to his wife so she can finally know who he really is. Leonard collapses on his chair several times during the interview. Is he just sleeping or has he passed away? Eventually, the interview is cut short, and his wife makes it pretty clear to the filmmakers that this footage and this interview will never see the light of day. I had the pleasure of seeing Paul Schrader twice in person many, many years ago, back in the year 2000, when a film festival was doing a career retrospective on his film career. That year was a year of many firsts for me. It was my first film festival. It was my first time seeing a Paul Schrader film that he actually directed, not just written. It was my first time seeing Willem Dafoe and George C. Scott in a film, and they screened Paul's films Hardcore and Light Sleeper at the festival, and Paul introduced both films in person. It has been a pleasure over the years to go back through George C. Scott's catalogue of films and enjoy his always igniting, amazing performances. And back in the year 2000, Willem Dafoe was known as just a character actor, so it's been a pleasure over the years to see his career really flourish into the mainstream. Paul Schrader has always been a bit of a hit and miss director, but his career has had a bit of a resurgence in the last few years, starting with his film First Reform, starring Ethan Hawke. Oh Canada is unfortunately one of those misses, but it's an interesting mess. It plays with our mind, our own memories of events in our past, but it frustratingly is interesting in one scene. The scene is cut short, and then the next scene is not as interesting. Schrader chooses to jump back in between the present and the flashbacks in a confusing way. Sometimes he uses Richard Gere and Uma Thurman in the flashbacks, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The film starts off well. The idea to use an interview to explore one's past was compelling, and the earlier flashback scenes with Leonard, played by Jacob Elordi, were good because they explore the status difference between Leonard and his new wife and his new parents. But because Richard Gere's Leonard character is such an unreliable storyteller, it becomes frustrating and annoying for the other characters in the film and also to us as viewers. The film jumps back into Leonard's backstory in no particular order. Every time we get an interesting scene, the scene stops and it jumps back into the present time or back into the backstory, into another scene completely different to the last scene, and the film loses momentum. We get glimpses of many of his romantic relationships, but we never get a sense of why people were drawn to him. And the exploring of why he dodged the war and escaped to Canada is not really explored much either. There's just not enough time spent on any part of his life to make the film or Leonard seem interesting. The film is based on a book by Russell Banks, and the film is only 90 minutes long, so I'm not sure why Schrader didn't make the film at least 2 hours. So it gives some scenes room to breathe, and it makes the scenes more compelling for us. I may sound mostly negative about Paul Schrader's new film, O Canada, but there are a lot of interesting themes throughout the film. I can see what Paul was trying to go for here, and the performances throughout the film are very solid. If you're a fan of filmmaker Paul Schrader, I still recommend checking out the film. There are a lot of interesting aspects to the film. If you're not a fan, maybe you should skip it. I give O Canada 2.5 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video so you can see more of my videos in the future. See you next time.